Hey guys, so this is a video that I've been trying to figure out how to make for a long time. We need to talk. Hey guys, Work here. Welcome back to Work the Trigger. So there's a trend that I've seen been growing in the firearms culture basically ever since I got into it. And that trend is basically people forcefully supporting the products and the equipment that they use with what seems like very minimal reasoning other than that's what they use and they don't want you calling it trash. And I understand. I've been there. I've been to the point where I can only afford certain things. I've tried to get some of the subpar or some of the trendy stuff and found out that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I understand wanting to defend good products. I really do. There's plenty of products out there that I defend, despite them maybe not being the mainstream. That being said, the kind of undertone of this trend is people actually attaching their ego to the stuff that they use. And this happens on both sides of the equation. On the low end, you get people attaching their ego to the subpar equipment and feeling personally attacked when it's said to be subpar. On the high end, you've got the guys who attach their ego to the money that they spent on this stuff. Typically speaking, this crowd is the crowd that makes fun of the just as good crowd. And the just as good crowd is the crowd that doesn't think that paying more money will get them anything better. Well, I'm here to tell you, as a guy in the middle, it's annoying. Knock it off. It's one of the reasons that we can't get along in this whole community is because we're constantly battling with each other over equipment, over who spent more and what that money got you. We can't just take a step back and look at something and say whether it's good or whether it's not good. Now, yes, there are going to be laws of diminishing returns on the top end, and there are going to be things on the bottom end that are subpar. That doesn't mean that people are personally attacking you because you are not your gear. A couple of examples that I have noticed with this is TFX Pro sights. Anybody who's watched my channel for a length of time knows that I despise these sights. I don't think it's a good sighting system, and I will readily tell anybody out there. Now, TFX Pros are not cheap sights, and the proponents of them will fight to tell me that the things that I'm pointing out aren't negative features of these. Now let me tell you something right off the bat. If you're getting into a conversation with somebody who shoots quite a bit, now, again, I will not say that I'm the best shot. I am highly above average, however. And if you start a conversation supporting whatever your chosen equipment is by using the phrase, "I shoot like a pro," unless you are a pro, your entire argument has just been falsified. I can't believe how many average shooters I see supporting subpar equipment and utilizing their shooting skill to be able to enforce that. Unfortunately, TFX Pros, and to a lesser extent the TFOs, they're just not made well for how the sighting system on a pistol is supposed to be utilized. The majority of people that I ask that really like TFX Pros still say that they line up the 3 dots. Does lining up the 3 dots hit a target? Yes. Does it accurately hit a target? No, it really doesn't. Not more accurately than a proper sight alignment. Another one of these is the Canik TP9 series of pistols. Now, if you go back and look at my review, I actually rave about that gun. It's way better than it should be. Everything about that gun works way better than a sub $500 gun. But I did mention that it feels cheap, and it does. It compared to other pistols in a slightly higher price market, the pistols that it has the features of, the Canik feels cheap. The plastic feels cheap, the stippling feels cheap, the slide feels cheap, the sights don't because they ain't cheap. But if you look at the overall review for that, I said the gun is really good, but people get hung up on every little thing that you might point out that is subpar on a gun and a sign that you don't like the equipment, focus on that one thing. It's kind of insane, actually. There is almost no gun out there, there's no gun that I can think of that doesn't have a single downside to it. And if I'm doing a review on that, I'm going to point out that downside because that may be the breaking point on what somebody wants in a firearm. If someone absolutely feels that they need fiber optic sights with tritium behind the fibers, the TFX Pro line is the only line that you can choose from. But me pointing out that they are not properly proportioned to be able to use equal height, equal light in your sight alignment might be the breaking point for somebody to buy versus not buy. Likewise, if somebody's looking at buying a Canik, that cheaper feel might be the breaking point for what would push them to a slightly more expensive firearm. As stated, Every gun has its problem. The CZP-10 grip stippling might be too much for you. You may not like the Glock grip angle. You might not appreciate what Springfield has done legislatively in the past. There's always going to be something about a firearm or a company or equipment that is not perfect, because the perfect thing doesn't exist. So when I go to point this stuff out, I'm pointing it out because that may be the thing that is the breaking point for a potential buyer. And I'm not gonna lie or gloss over that just because it makes current owners upset. Because honestly, it shouldn't make current owners upset. If that's what you want, then buy it. You don't have to go defend your tool to every person on the internet who has found that little thing. However, also don't pretend that that little thing doesn't exist. My two main carry guns are a CZP-10C. Again, the grip texture might be a little too much for people. The stock trigger promoted trigger bite. The magazine catch sucked. And the stock sights were okay. And a CZP-01. The stock trigger on a P01 is not that good. The side options for it are okay at best, and the aftermarket availability for accessories is relatively slim compared to a lot of other guns. Now, does that mean that I'm going to get on everybody who points those things out as being a negative factor for that certain pistol? No. Those are legitimate complaints, just like a Canic feeling a little bit cheap and TFX Pros being improperly proportioned. Now, yes, I'm bringing up these two things numerous times. It's just because those are the ones that off my head I've dealt with a lot on the channel. But it's not a new thing. We need to keep our egos out of our equipment. You can disagree, but if you disagree, you need something to back it up with. Not just, you're dumb, or I'll bet you can't shoot worth a shit. Because, I'm sorry guys, I'm not the smartest, but I can shoot. So, get your ego out of your gear. Stop trying to defend every little bit and pretend like there's a gun out there that doesn't have a negative. Own it. Admit that it doesn't matter on a Canic that it feels a little bit cheaper if the thing works flawlessly. Or with TFX Pros, just admit you don't know how to use sights. That's gonna piss some people off. So thanks guys for watching. I hope this quick little explanation maybe gives you a reality check on what we need to do to be able to interact within our community. Especially online, especially with reviewing stuff, you have to point this stuff out. You guys gotta remember, the majority of the stuff that I review, I buy. TFX Pros, I bought, and I admit that I wasted my money on those because they weren't a good sighting system. The Canic, I own it. It's sitting in my safe. I still shoot it. It's a fun gun to shoot. It's reliable, it's accurate, the trigger is freaking amazing. It just feels a little bit cheap compared to guns that, to be honest, are more expensive than it. So learn to take these criticisms and opinions as they are. They're criticisms and opinions. But that's what every review is. It's somebody's opinion on a certain piece of equipment. And although those opinions may differ with what you say or even with each other, that's the point, is to be able to get a full idea of what these things are, maybe prior to buying it or maybe prior to carrying it. So it's things like this that need to be pointed out. We're all allowed to have these different opinions. And just like in government, it's dangerous to have too many opinions all on one side. You need somebody to be able to back away from the issue, to be able to point out some of the things that somebody too close to it, who's already personally invested in it, might not be willing to see. And again, for you guys on the top end, sometimes some things are just as good. So thanks guys for watching. I hope that maybe the next time that you decide that you need to defend a subpar product on somebody's videos, you think twice about it and maybe take yourself out of the equation and consider that maybe this person is speaking fact, or maybe their opinion is solid but just different than yours. Remember, if you found this video useful, go ahead and hit that like button down below. If you didn't find this video useful, or you think that it's worth it to just shit on everybody's opinion who's not yours, hit that subscribe button, because I got plenty of stuff for you. Thanks again, guys. Remember, I appreciate every one of you. Most of you. And until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.